G'day guys. What is the circle of progress? The circle of progress is the reason why every year when it gets to the start of the new year, we set a New Year's resolution for ourselves that this is it. This is the year we're going to get fit, we're going to get in shape, we're going to learn the instrument, we're going to read more books, we're going to meditate every day, whatever it is. And then next year rolls around and we haven't made a whole lot of progress. So the circle of progress is basically describes how that's all turning around. How do we always end up back in the same place as where we started? And how can we make little changes to the way that we do things so that we actually start making good progress forwards? So there's 6 basic stages in the circle of progress. So the first stage, it's called ideation. So that means that we've got a dream. There's something that we want to do. We want to become more spiritual. We want to learn to play that instrument. We want to get 6-pack abs, whatever it is. And it's still just a dream. We haven't yet believed that we can really do it. We just suspect that it's something that we would like. So when we're thinking about our goals this way, we're in the ideation phase. After that, once we decide, okay, I'm actually going to do this, that is when we get into the next stage, which is planning. So that's when we start to think, okay, specifically, what am I going to do that's going to make me progress towards this goal? What instrument am I going to learn? When am I going to find time to practice it? Which gym am I going to go to? Or am I going to set up a home gym? Do I want to do calisthenics, or do I want to do powerlifting, or do I want to do bodybuilding, right? What diet do I want to go on? Do I want to just count calories? Do I want to do paleo or keto or vegan? So we start getting some concrete ideas about how we would like to do things, and we're in the planning stage. So far this has all been great fun, right? We finish our ideation when we become excited, when we believe that we can really do something, and when we decide to do it. And while we're planning, we're having a great time thinking about all the different ways that we're going to actually make it happen. Next stage is getting started. So this includes the first couple of weeks of doing whatever the new thing is. So this can be a bit more difficult than what we've done so far. So when we're getting started, we're actually looking at, perhaps we start to have our first few sessions at the gym. Maybe we go and purchase the musical instrument that we're going to start playing. We go and purchase $400 worth of Gymshark clothes so that we think that we look good at the gym. This is all part of getting started. And with the gym in particular, we're going to have a lot of muscle soreness for the first couple of weeks while we're in this stage. And if we're dieting, we're going to be sort of quite hungry for the first couple of weeks in this stage. And we're also going to see the big ways in which our plan doesn't work. So maybe we decided that my workout plan is that I'm going to squat every day. And then I get into the gym and I discover that I've got knee pain. And so now I have to work out a way to work around that. So there's going to be some adjustments that happen to the plan during this phase. But we do make those adjustments. And then we are able to hit the grind. We start making good progress. So ideally we start to accumulate a few weeks where we're going in, we're practicing the habit, we're hitting the grind, and things are going well. We're starting to see some results. We're losing weight and it's not too difficult. We're gaining muscle and we're not overtrained, and things are basically sustainable. if life was just this, things would be great. We would all achieve all the things that we wanted to achieve. But we haven't yet completed the circle of progress. So eventually what happens is we decide that we need to optimize, okay? I have been losing weight and it's been going good and I haven't been that hungry. Maybe I could eat less food and lose weight more quickly. I've been gaining strength and muscle at the gym and it's been going great. Maybe I could do more exercises. Maybe I could spend an extra half an hour in the gym or add an extra day at the gym. Maybe I've decided that instead of going to the gym at a time that's convenient for me, I'm going to start going at 5 in the morning. Whatever it is, this is where we add too much. We make it more difficult than what it needs to be. And the activity becomes unsustainable. So we start to encounter resistance. We start to encounter, I don't really feel like going to the gym today. The alarm goes off at 5 in the morning and we don't want to get out of bed. Or we're dieting and we have a bit of an episode where we eat more than what we had planned to. Or eat something that we hadn't planned to eat. So we've done too much. And when all of this finally comes to a conclusion, we reach the burnout recovery phase. So this is where we have to stop. It may be that we stop because we've lost interest. We just don't feel like going to the gym. We don't feel like playing the instrument. We don't feel like continuing on the diet because it is all too much. It's too difficult. It's too much of an effort. And this is when, for a lot of us, we have some negative self-talk. So we say, gosh, this always happens. I just can't stick to it. I'm never going to achieve the thing. I'm not good enough. It's not going to happen for me. These are some of the thoughts that come along when we're in burnout within the recovery phase. But in any event, eventually our body gets the rest that it needs. We forget about how unnecessarily difficult we made the thing, and we remember why it is that we wanted the thing in the first place. And then we come back around to the ideation phase. So that's the circle of progress, right? So I think this is a good sort of encapsulation of a cycle that a lot of us, wittingly or unwittingly find ourselves in. And there's a few different ways in particular, there's a few varieties of it that I think are particularly worth calling out. So we can be involved in analysis paralysis, where we get to the planning stage and we want to account for, every possible variation. We have to research every possible product that exists out there before we can purchase something. Or we need to listen to every YouTube video about fitness before we can decide on an exercise plan. And in fact, the planning itself becomes too much. We burn ourselves out on planning and then we give it up. So we go directly from planning to too much to recovery burnout. And then eventually, hopefully, we come back around to ideation. We get another shot at it. But that's analysis paralysis. Another thing that can happen is where you decide that you're just going to tough it out. So maybe you've been through the cycle once, but you're not the sort of person that gets into negative self-talk. You're the sort of person who gets straight back on the horse. And the way that you decide that you're going to get back on the horse after your recovery period is by immediately going back into the amount of work that you were doing that was too much. So you immediately go back into doing more work than what is sustainable, And guess what? You don't manage to do a whole lot of that before, again, you become burned out and you have to take a break. So instead of moderating and selecting a reasonable amount of that activity to do, a reasonable amount of training, a reasonable calorie deficit, reasonable number of hours of practice, you go immediately to saying, well, I have to make up for lost time because I had this layoff, so I better get into the gym for 2 hours a day. So you've gone straight back into doing too much. Guess what? You burn out. You need to take recovery period again, and you can get stuck in that cycle. And when you're doing your planning for what you're going to get back into it, you're not learning the lesson from what's happened previously. So that's toughing it out. Last version of this that I want to call out is when you're basically circling the drain. That's when you spend all of your time in ideation, right? It's just a dream, but you don't really believe that you can make it happen. So the way that you get from ideation to planning, to enter planning, that means that you've decided that you're going to do it. So if you're in ideation and you haven't taken that decision, usually what's happened is that you haven't yet gotten excited about it. You've got anxiety around the goal. You're not sure if you can achieve it. And because you've got this anxiety, you don't feel excited, you can't make the decision to actually do it. And once you do decide to do it, you might go through getting started, you may go through planning fine, you may make some progress and burn out. Normally, the first time you go through the cycle on a particular activity, that progress phase is not that big because you haven't developed an understanding of your own limits yet. So you go through progress, you make some progress, it becomes all too much because you make it harder than what it needs to be. And then you enter this burnout phase where you're really down on yourself. You get very negative self-talk, and you basically wish that you hadn't tried it in the first place. So you spend a long time in recovery. It takes a long time to come back around to even believing that it's okay to want it again. And then you spend a long time just wanting it but not really believing it before you give yourself another chance to do it. So what is really ideal is if we can have this ideation phase where we decide that we want a goal and very quickly achieve the self-belief to think that we can do it, that we can really achieve it. And then to decide to do it. When we enter planning, we're realistic about the fact that this cycle exists, right? We're realistic about our own limitations, and we realize that it's a real trap to try to do too much too quickly. So we make a plan that is going to allow us to get through those first couple of weeks of getting started without it hurting too much. We don't go and spend $400 on Gymshark, and instead we just rock up to the gym in whatever comfortable clothes that we've got. We don't make it bigger than what it needs to be. We don't start off with 2 hours of training a day. We start off with some light exercise for a couple of weeks to get the blood moving, and we slowly build up from there. And then when we reach a place where we're making progress and it is sustainable, we resist the temptation to add buckets loads of more work. We resist the temptation to make it more difficult than what it needs to be. We just get into the zone and we just cruise. And this can be counterintuitive because you may think, well, this should be more difficult. Actually, progress is easy. The hard part is resisting the temptation, essentially, to make it harder than what it needs to be and burning yourself out. But at the same time, having said that, there is still a place for these other phases, even in a well-adjusted version of the circle of progress, right? Because even if you've got a good understanding of your limits change over time. So every now and again, periodically, you are going to push the gas a little bit to see what it is that you're capable of now. And in that case, sometimes you will enter overwork periods, but it should be done deliberately. It should be done understanding that, okay, I'm going to find my limits again, and there's going to be a cost to that, which is that I'm going to need to take some recovery time, and then I'm going to need to reacclimate to whatever the activity is, so that I can get back into this progress phase, but potentially at a higher level, at a higher standard than what I was before. So that's how we add too much in a way that's well adjusted, these overwork periods. And then when we're in recovery, we just let ourselves recover. We just say, this is just part of it, right? I pushed hard, I made good progress, and now I need to recover. You don't attempt to, you don't fight too hard against the dying of the light, right? You just say, you don't try to hold on to the amount of work that you were doing when you were overworking. You just let it go. You let yourself recover. You may stay a bit active, but you're not trying to force progress. You let yourself recover. You don't create negative self-talk. You have positive self-talk. You say, yep, this is part of the process. And then you get straight back on the horse with a new plan. And the plan includes lessons that you've learned from the previous cycle. So that's what it should look like when it's well adjusted. Okay, so some key tips that I want to give for each phase in the circle of progress. Like I said, for ideation, if you're somebody who thinks that you might want something, but you're also kind of scared of wanting it and you're not sure if you can really do it, the way to get into planning, the way to progress this, is to turn that anxiety into excitement. It's to think, oh gosh, I'm excited about this new way of life that's going to come about when I start doing this new thing, right? So it's about positive visualization. It's about creating some excitement for yourself that, yeah, I am going to do this. It is going to be good. And once you've got that excitement, then you can take the decision to do it, at which point you come into planning. With planning, the advice that I would give is that you should reflect on lessons that you've learned about yourself previously, in terms of what your limits are, so that you can design an activity for yourself or an approach for yourself that's going to be sustainable, but you should not overanalyze it. You are your own best teacher, right? So you need to get some experience of feedback for yourself to see what it's going to be like for you. Don't rely too much on what other people have to say, or you'll get bogged down in analysis paralysis. So you want planning to be a reflection on what you know about yourself. You don't want planning to be an endless information gathering exercise, okay? So once you've got kind of the minimum structure for a plan, it's time to get started. With getting started, you want to have a slow ramp up so that you can control basically your excitement. You always want to feel like you've never done enough. That way you will want to come back and do more. So if you want to be in the gym for an hour a day, 6 days a week, make yourself only go 3 days a week. That way you will want to do more. It's easier to get into that progress phase, right? So when you're getting started, don't spend a whole heap of money. Don't make a huge financial commitment to it. Just go with the absolute minimum. Just focus on getting through those first couple of weeks with excitement maintained. You need to build a little bit of momentum to get into a proper habit with it. When you're in the progress phase, make sure that you don't add way too much. The key with the progress phase is just to sit in it. It's just to be relaxed, within it. So you are going to make progress, which means that you are going to need to increase things while you're in this phase in order to continue to develop. but you want to do it in a way that's controlled. So for example, with the gym, a mistake that I see people making is, they're developing on their lifts and they're adding weight and reps and sets to every lift, every training session. It's a recipe for ending up doing too much. Get through a whole week and then add some weight to some of your lifts, not the maximum amount of weight to all of your lifts, right? So just spread that progress out over a longer period of time so that you can really milk that out, okay? When you've started to do too much, this should be a decision, right? You should decide that you're going to push and test your limits, and then that's what it should be about. So if you end up doing too much by accident, the trick is to recognize that quickly. So you sort of want to be very deliberate with this phase of overwork, and it should be an information gathering sort of phase for you. It should be something that you reflect on next time you get back around to your planning. So if you are starting to feel resistance towards that activity, it means that you've been doing too much. You have to take a break. You have to get into recovery, and that is what you should do. Don't fight to keep going until you really run ragged and push yourself too hard. If you've got resistance, it's okay, take a break. It'll be a shorter break and you can get back into making progress quickly, and just, reflect on what is the thing that I added that caused this to be difficult. And then when you come back around to planning, just subtract that again so that you can get back into being in progress, okay? With the recovery phase, this should be a time to recover. This is not a time to beat yourself up for failing, right? You haven't failed. It's the circle of progress, all right? We've just come back around to the beginning. So you're recovering, allow yourself to rest. Do try to stay active if you can, but if that is mentally draining for you, then don't do it, all right? Just cut yourself a break, relax, recover. The more you commit to recovering, the quicker this will go. The more recovered you will become, the quicker you can get back around to making progress. So there's some takeaway advice for you guys on the circle of progress. I hope that you like this idea. I hope that you found it helpful. I would like to talk some more about different tips for different phases in other videos, but it's already been a long video, this one, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon. All right, thanks guys.